بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين. اللهم افتح أقفال قلوبنا بذكرك وألهمنا شكرك واجعلنا من أهل معرفتك ولا تجعلنا من الغافلين. آمين. Last time we have finished the chapter regarding shukr and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was one of the beautiful chapters Imam al-Ghazali covered, as usual, mashallah, with details and practical examples. Today, inshallah ta'ala, al-Ghazali will talk about Ikhlas and Sidq, sincerity and truthfulness. And again, this is one of the long chapters. Al-Ghazali will dive into this and take us with him into this topic regarding the intention. Bismillah. So, Ghazali says in this chapter, you should know that sincerity has reality and a foundation and perfection. In Arabic, unfortunately, this is the issue regarding translation. In Arabic, al-Ikhlas lahu haqiqa wa asl wa kamal. So Ikhlas has reality. What is it? This is what he will talk about later. And what is the foundation of Ikhlas? And what is the perfection of Ikhlas? So these are three pillars, Ghazali is saying. And the essence of Ikhlas is an-niyyah. The essence of Ikhlas, the core of Ikhlas, is the intention. Because you find Ikhlas inside the intention. Yes? And the reality of Ikhlas is to purify your intention from anything which is corrupting it. And the perfection of Ikhlas is to be truthful. I know it's a bit wishy-washy now. You are not yet getting the details as such. But Ghazali will take us through this one by one. So regarding the first pillar, so he said the intention. Ikhlas, the essence of Ikhlas is the intention. Yes? What is the intention? He quoted an ayah from the Quran, and there are plenty of verses in the Quran regarding intention, but he preferred this ayah here. وَلَا تَطْرُدِ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. So addressing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do not turn away those who invoke their Lord in the morning and in the evening, desiring his pleasure. So he says, and you can see the ayah is talking about a group of people doing supplications to Allah Azza wa Jal in the morning and in the evening, and the core of their action is about seeking Allah's pleasure. That's it. And then Ghazali commented on the ayah, and he says the meaning of the intention is to seek Allah's pleasure. Now, I believe it's better regarding the explanation. So we can understand it more when he says, okay, what is the intention then? The intention is about seeking Allah's pleasure. And this is why Rasulullah والسلام, says in the very hadith which narrated in Bukhari and others, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So actions are but by intentions. So actions are heavily relying on the intention. It means regarding the actions here, it means the reward of the action or the validity of the action. Big debate. We addressed this in our course on the 40 Nawawiyah. So we have big discussion among the scholars. Actions are but by intention. What does it mean? Does it mean the reward of the action is relying on the intention, or the validity of the action is relying on the intention, and so on? So we have different opinions on that. But nevertheless, the intention is the core of any action regarding acceptance. So if you want your deeds to be accepted by Allah Azza wa Jal, you have to have the right intention. So what if you do not have the right intention, or you don't have an intention in the first place? Do you record or do the action, will the action be recorded as a valid action? And usually we give the example of wudu. And this is a big discussion across the school of thoughts. And the Hanafi on one side, the Shafi'i on the other side. For instance, I used to tell our Sharia college students in the exams, give them an example and say, okay, tell me what is the scholars' opinions on this issue. Somebody jumped in the pool and he took a dip in the pool and then swam, and then he left, and it was Dhuhr time. So he went to the mosque, and the Imam was in the first rak'ah about to do ruku'. So he went quickly and he says Allahu Akbar, followed the Imam in his ruku'. In his ruku', I didn't do wudu. Would this salah be valid salah, not valid salah? What is your observation here and the scholars' opinion? It's a big issue. So if you were to talk about the Shafi'i opinion, the Shafi'i considers niyyah in wudu incumbent. So if you didn't do niyyah, you don't have wudu. Number two, the other issue in this issue, or this example which I've given, and this usually was my style of exams. You can open the book and you won't find the answer. Yes, so I need you to understand the material which we are reading. So in the Shafi'i school, the other issue is the sequence, because Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the sequence in the ayah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila as-salati, or you believe when you want to pray, so wash your face, etc., till the end of the ayah. So Allah did put a sequence. So he mentioned the face first, and then the hands till the elbows, and then the head or the hair, or the head actually, ru'us, and then the feet till the ankles. So this is the sequence. In the Shafi'i school, again, I don't want to take you through details, but just very quickly. In the Shafi'i school, they consider this sequence in the ayah is obligatory. So if you were to do your feet before your face, then you have invalid wudu. So this person who jumped in the pool, there's no sequence, there's no intention. Yes? So on the Shafi'i school, in the Shafi'i school, his salah is not valid salah because he has no wudu and no sequence, no nothing. Now, in the Hanafi school, they have a different take on that. They say first, intention is not required in wudu, and the sequence is not incumbent in wudu. Why? Because the letter wow, which is in the ayah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق. So wash your faces, and this wow, وأيديكم, and yes, إلى المرافق, up till the elbows. وامسحوا and wipe over your head, and wash your feet till the ankles. So this and it's a linguistic discussion now. Does it dictate a sequence here, or it's just to combine between things randomly? The Shafi'i says no, it requires a sequence. So accordingly, the sequence is incumbent. And the Hanafi says no, from linguistic point of view, the wow, the and, is just to combine between things randomly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't require sequence. And they have given evidences on this side and that side, and debating these evidences and what have you. So cut a long story short, although it's not short, in the Hanafi school, if this very person who jumped into the pool and then went back to the mosque and prayed, he didn't break any wudu, definitely, then his wudu is valid. But what is the intention? He has no intention. Hanafi says you don't need the intention. As long as you wash the limbs of the wudu, your wudu is valid. But they agree with the Shafi'i here that you missed the reward for the wudu, and this is why they interpret the hadith إنما الأعمال بالنيات, i.e. the reward of the actions relying on the intention. So if you miss the intention, you won't have the reward. But nevertheless, your salah will be valid because your wudu is valid, but without the reward. Again, just very quickly to show you that the intention is a very deep issue, and Imam Shafi'i says 2/3 of the fiqh is relying on the intention. So it's very, very important, the intention. And almost everything we do, we need the intention. So this is why Ghazali says here that the meaning of the intention is seeking Allah's pleasure. Yes, whether it's wudu, whether it's salah, whether it's siyam, whether it's being nice to your parents or being good to your friends and people and what have you, it's all about seeking Allah's pleasure, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ghazali quoted, rahimahullah, a hadith here, although it's not a strong hadith, as you all know now. Many of the narrations Ghazali quoting in his book are not very strong. Some of it yes, some of it not. So this is one of the weak narrations in Daraqutni, it's his Sunan, that the angels, they have the records of your actions, and they will lift it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, present it to Allah, and then Allah will say to the angels, take it away, because these actions were not done for my sake. So again, it's in line with the general theme of the importance of the intention. So if the action is not based on the true pure intention, then it will not be recorded as something you will reward it for it. So you won't be rewarded for an action which you have done without intention. Okay. Then Ghazali as well quoted another hadith about a person whom Allah has given. This is an authentic hadith in Tirmidhi and Ibn Majah and other books of the Sunnah. So Allah has given somebody knowledge and wealth. So he teaches this knowledge, he distributes it, he work accordingly with this knowledge, and his money and wealth he gives in charity and do goodness with it. And there's another man who has no wealth, no knowledge. So he says, I wish I have the same as X, so I will do the same. So Rasulullah ﷺ says, these two people are equal in reward. The one who has the money and the knowledge, and he's teaching this knowledge and distributing this money. So his record of deeds, hefty in the scale. And the other man has no knowledge, has no wealth, but his intention, deep down, I wish, and Allah knows if he's telling the truth or he's just faking it. So he says, I wish I have knowledge as this person, I will do this with it and teach people and so on. And I wish I have this money as this person. So this is envy, good envy. So he's not wishing this person to lose his knowledge or his wealth and he will have it. No, he said, I wish I have the same, I'll do the same. But I don't have. So he will have the same reward as that person. And he gave an example of another man, a person Allah has given wealth and he did not give knowledge. So he's distributing this money left, right, and center because he has no knowledge. And there's another man who has no knowledge and no wealth, and he saw that person's wealth and he says, I wish I have the same money, I'll do the same thing, doing evil, going to stuff which is haram and so on. So these two people are equal in sins. He has no money to do the same, but he is intending to do the same if only if he got that money, but he didn't. So his intention will be recorded for him. And then Ghazali rahimahullah quoted another hadith, a person who goes in the battlefield and his intention for going is to get some booties. If this is the case, then he has no reward for his deeds. And this is what you can see in the early hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions are but by intention. The actions are but by intention hadith has a long story, and the story of the immigrant who migrated from Mecca to Medina to marry a woman. So this is why Rasulullah ﷺ says the hadith. So they told him about a man. They said to the Prophet ﷺ that this person, he left Mecca to Medina to marry this woman. His intention is not that migration for Allah and His Messenger. So the Prophet ﷺ says, whomsoever migrated for a woman to marry her, so his intention was for that reason. So his migration is very linked to his intention. And whomsoever migrated for Allah and His Messenger, i.e., he's seeking Allah's pleasure, then his intention or his action is relying on his intention. So he made it clear, alayhi salatu. So you see that the action is heavily relying on the intention. And in everything we do, it's the same. Everything we do, intention is a key for acceptance. Then Ghazali quoted something here, which is not, again, not a strong narration, but it's a nice one, although it's not an authentic or strong narration, that a man from Bani Israel, he passed by a heap of sand, very big, and he said to himself, I wish I have this big mountain of sand instead food. So I will take this food and distribute it for the needy and so on. And the story says this was in the time of Musa alayhi salam. So Allah says to Musa, tell this person that I have accepted his intention and rewarded him for what he intended to do, and accepted from him. It's not far from reality that Allah will accept someone's intention if he was sincere. And again, Al-Ghazali quoted another hadith. This one is authentic in Bukhari and Muslim. The hadith which says the killer and the one who's being killed are in fire. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, we understand that the killer is going to the fire, but what about the one who's being killed? He said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his intention was to kill his brother. So this is why they share the same intention. So they want to kill each other, so they have the same intention. As you can see, Ghazali is rahimahullah, is giving different examples from different walks of life, different actions, different stuff. It's not just one thing, salah and siyam or wudu. Now he's giving different examples to show you that intention is across the board in everything. And then he quoted another hadith, actually. And this hadith is in Al-Bazzar and Musnad Ahmad, and he says, whoever has who got married to a woman on a specific sadaq or mahr, because we know that mahr is one of the conditions of marriage. So you need to have mahr, the dowry or the sadaq in the contract. So whoever got married to a woman and he specified a mahr for her, but his intention is not to pay it to her, so he will be resurrected as a zani, a person who committed adultery. I know it's a big deal, yes? But I'll come back to this later. And whoever borrowed money from somebody else, and his intention not to repay it whatsoever, then he will be resurrected as a thief. Wow. Actually, it's a very dangerous territory here. fooling people, cheating people. So he's giving her high hopes that, yeah, I'll give you this mahar, but let me marry you. Then they got the witnesses, they got the sheikh or whatever, and then they have the mahar written and everything, but he never paid the mahar yet. His intention actually, I will never pay the mahar. I just want to marry her. Yes? So he will be resurrected as a person who committed zina because he has eaten her right. Similarly, with the person who borrowed money from you, it's a debt. And his intention, let him catch me if he can. He doesn't want to pay the money in the first place. So this is his intention. Then he will be resurrected as a thief. And there are plenty of narrations to show you that if someone did not pay the debt, even Rasulullah did not pray on the person who did not pay his debt, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just to teach them that it's not a joke. People's rights are not a joke. So you need to deliver people's rights. So he has given us here, rahimahullah, al-Ghazali, varieties of examples and different topics and so on to show you that how far your intention can take you to Jannah or elsewhere, a'udhu billah. So be careful. Then and now he went to the technicalities as usual. Imam al-Ghazali, he is very deep. So he will take you to the depth. So he's diving now into more technicalities on the intention. So he says the reality of intention is the motivating willpower that emerges from knowledge. In plain English, he's saying here, if you want, that what motivates you, yes, and this motivation is based on knowledge. So this is what the intention is about. Okay, and then he explains more to clarify this. So he says there's no action or there's no correct action without ability and will and knowledge. So he's giving us now a sample. So any action, take any action. He's saying if you were to take an action, so let's dissect it and put it under the microscope. What is it about, the action? The action is based on ability, will, and knowledge. And knowledge, of course, this is a rule I remember first time I heard from our Sheikh, rahimahullah, Mullah Ali, Mullah Abdul Alim al-Zanki, rahimahullah. He says the last thing is the first thing you apply. Yes? The last thing you mentioned, the first thing you apply. So here, what do you have? You have ability, number one, will, number two, knowledge, number three. So you need the knowledge first, and then you need the will, and then the ability. Yes, he will give us an example now, and things will be clearer. So for instance, he says, so Allah has created in you the desire for food, okay? But this desire can be dormant, as if it's sleeping, yes? If you see a land on If you see the food, yes, so this desire will wake up. So the knowledge of the food happened now. Is without seeing the food, this dormant desire will not trigger. Yeah. So you saw the food. So through your senses, you got the knowledge. So this knowledge triggers the desire. And you need the limbs, your limbs, to pick the apple, to pick this fruit, for instance, and then eat it. So the knowledge about it, then the will, triggered by the knowledge, and then the action. So you need these three things to get it. And Allah, as He created in you the desire for present things, He created in you desire for future things. So you will plan for the future. It's not just something you have seen in the garden and you want to eat, for instance. You have as well, the intention is related to future things, and then you visualize it, and then you work accordingly with the will, and then you go through the action. So you have an image in your mind. This will trigger the dormant desire for something. Then you have the will, and then you action it. Yes? So you see, it's going in reverse. So the action is the last thing, but the action is based on the will, and the will is based on the intention, or the knowledge, let's say. So it's about the intention that is based on knowledge. So for instance, he says somebody can go on the battlefield and his intention is just for booties and money. Okay. So he's not motivated by the akhirah. He's not motivated by the will. He's not motivated by Allah's pleasure. He's motivated by, I can make some money. You see the difference between the two. Somebody is seeking knowledge. His intention is motivated by, I will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and carry the flag of the message and deliver to the people and so on. This is one thing. It could be as well, I will get through this knowledge, a good position in that community, I can have some authority, I can get some money out of it. Could be. And so on. So you can see, so he says, niyyah then, the intention, it's about the willpower that motivates you to do something. And the meaning of sincerity of the intention is to purify this intention from anything that ruins the intention. Then Ghazali says, rahimahullah ta'ala, the intended meaning of action is its effect upon the heart. So it means any action we do, it reflects on our heart. And vice versa. So if you want to do an action and the willpower that motivates you is for Allah's sake, then this will affect your heart. And this is one of two parts of worship. Because worship has like two wings. One, which is the intention, and one which is the action. So any ibadah has two things, the intention and the action. As I told you regarding the wudu with no intention, yes, it's ticked the box in the Hanafi school that he made wudu, but he has no reward because he has no intention. So he needs the intention. It's different, of course. Don't mix the two together. The wudu in the Hanafi especially is different than the salah. You can't say he got into the salah with no intention, Allahu Akbar, he's praying. Yes, he can't do that because salah is a specific form of ibadah. So wudu can be ibadah, can be just for cooling. So you are just washing your limbs to cool yourself up because it's very hot. But salah, you can't just go and do these actions because you feel doing it. No, you can't do that. So the intention in salah is incumbent in all schools. No one says there's a discussion here. No. So niyyah is one of the two parts of ibadah. You need niyyah number one, and you need the action, number two. So you might have the niyyah, but you did not activate the niyyah into an action. And we talked about this probably in different occasions, that out of Allah's mercy, as in the hadith, if you were to have internal intention, internal discussion with yourself, that I wish, as we've seen in that hadith, who says to himself, I wish I have the same money as that person, I wish I have the same knowledge as that person, I will do the same, distribute it for good people and teach the needy for this knowledge, etc. This is internal thing, internal discussion in your mind, but you never done any of this. Then Allah will record it for you, as in the hadith. If you were to talk about something good and you have a good intention, Allah will record it for you as a good deed. But the opposite is not the same. If somebody wants to do an evil, but he didn't action the evil. Until he put it into action, it will not be recorded for him as an evil action. Yes? So you might say this is contradictory to the first thing which you mentioned here in the previous example. Probably it needs some fine-tuning because this is the authentic narration the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. So again, Ghazali is giving an example here. So for instance, he says the ultimate aim of sujood is not to put your forehead on the ground for the sake of that. It's for the sake of submission and for the sake of humility. So yes, you are doing an action, but this action reflects on the heart. So the heart should feel humility and humbleness and khushu' and attentiveness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see the correlation and the connection between the two. The outward reflects on the inward. And as well, the inward, if you have pure intention, you can enjoy the sujood and enjoy giving zakah and enjoy giving charity because your intention is pure. So you don't feel just overjoyed if you received a lot of money. You feel overjoyed if you gave a lot of money as well. So because the purity of the intention. So this is what Ghazali is saying here, that the aim from the action is to reflect on the heart. This is why Allah Azza wa Jal did command us with the 5 pillars or the rest of the commands. Yes, so do the salah. What is the significance of the salah if it did not reflect on your heart? So if we are just doing robotic salah and we don't feel the khushu', we don't feel the closeness to Allah, so there's something wrong with our salah. Then we need to fix our salah and work on making our salah better. And the point of zakah, what is the point of zakah? Is it just calculation and then taking your money and making your money decrease? It's not. It's to purify the stinginess and the miserliness which we have in ourselves. So Allah Azza wa Jal is teaching us through these actions how to be better, how to improve ourselves. So this is why the intention is key. So if we miss the intention, then our actions will be robotic, whether it's salah or siyam or zakah or you name it. So it's about disconnecting your heart from possessions of the dunya. No one says that you cannot possess things from the dunya. That's definitely you can, if you've done it in halal, definitely. But don't let these possessions possess you. This is the issue. If it was possessing you, then this is the danger. So somebody might be a miser because he's been possessed by his money. Yes. So he doesn't control the money controls him or her. Now, Allah doesn't want you to be like this. He wants you to control the money and give for his sake. Yes, definitely. I know, probably as many of you do know, that many people do not just give zakah. They give zakah and they give above the zakah many charities. Why? Because they have a good heart. They train themselves properly and they are not controlled by the possessions or their possessions, actually. So the goodness of the intention is about a tendency of the heart towards goodness. And this is the core of it. So if your heart is leaning towards goodness, and this is the fitrah which Allah created in us, but sometimes in some point in our life, probably it's been corrupted and tampered with and so on. So you start diverting from that fitrah and that innate which Allah has created in us. So you start withholding the money, you start feeling it's a robotic salah, you don't feel anything in your salah because you are not doing the right thing. Your heart is not functioning in the right way. So our actions reflect on the heart, and our heart, if it was pure, reflect on our limbs and makes our actions better and accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the presence of the heart is what we need. If any action, our heart was not present whilst we were doing it, then I'm afraid we lost the reward, minimum. Sometimes it goes beyond this. Ghazali gave an example, rahimahullah, which is a funny one. And he said, if you have an ulcer in your stomach, yes, so you need to take a direct medicine to go inside. So imagine if somebody got a cream and he started, rubbing the cream on his skin from outside from outside. So he's rubbing his tummy from outside. What do you think about this person? Would it treat this ulcer in his stomach or the disease in his stomach? Of course not. So sometimes we do this. You know that it's not about the outward, it's about the inward. And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, although the hadith again has some weakness in it, niyatul mar'i or niyatul mu'mini khayrun min amali. So the intention sometimes of the believer is better than his action, because the intention is in the heart. Yes. And sometimes it's more rewarding than the action. The action can be done with no intention. So you got no reward on it. But you can have the intention and no action and get reward on it. Yes, and this is the point. So again, we need to combine between the two. And Ghazali says, let me teach you something here. When you know that the intention is so important and it's the core of what we do, then you should roll up your sleeves and increase and multiply your intention in your actions. So you can do in one action multiple intentions. Of course, the Shafi'i are more generous than the Hanafi on that front. Then he gave us an example. And he said, look at one action you do with one intention, you can multiply this into folds, different folds. Like, for instance, he said, entering into the mosque. Yes? And sitting in a mosque is a ibadah. This is one ibadah. Yes? He says, you can multiply this by 8. 8? Yes? Okay. Probably you might see a bit of repetition somewhere, but anyway, let me go through this with you. He said, number one, the mosque is Allah's house. So your intention should be, when you get into the mosque, you are visiting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? So, and Allah will be generous with you because you are his guest. So this should be your intention. The second thing, when you enter into the mosque, have the intention of ribat. Ribat, which is as if you are guarding the frontiers in your country from enemies. So guarding the frontiers is a very highly rewarded action, which is ribat, we call it. A third thing, now let me first tell you why he called it ribat, because he quoted the hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, انتظار الصلاة إلى الصلاة ذلكم الرباط. So waiting from salat to the second salah, it's an act of ribat. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam called this act. If you are sitting in a mosque waiting for the second salah to start, and this is an act of ribat, like as if you are guarding the frontiers from the enemies. The third thing, Ghazali says, you can have the intention that I want to do i'tikaf in this mosque. And this is something very easy to do, i.e. the intention. Whenever you enter the mosque, you say, nawaitu i'tikaf fi hadha al-masjid. I want to do i'tikaf in this mosque. And can you do a short i'tikaf? Long discussion among the scholars, but yes, even in the Hanafi school, the opinion of Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, you can. Yes, short period of time. In the Shafi'i school, no issue. You can make it as minimum as getting into this mosque and getting out. You get the reward, inshallah, for that. And number 4, when you entered into the mosque, you can have the intention of seclusion, i.e. shutting down all the distractions from the dunya and focusing in your heart and reflecting upon the akhirah and how to prepare yourself for the akhirah. Number 5, you dedicate your time, your efforts for dhikr. Either you listen to the dhikr or recitation, hadith, knowledge, etc., or you do dhikr, i.e., you recite or you read hadith and so on. And in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that it is highly rewarded for doing such a thing. Number 6, your intention can be as well to seek knowledge or to teach knowledge. Somebody who's praying with some mistakes in his salah, you can correct him nicely and kindly. Or somebody is doing something bad or wrong, you can correct them and do amr al-ma'ruf and nahy an al-munkar, these kind of things. So your intention is to receive or to deliver knowledge or goodness. Number 7, your intention is to refrain from any sins or any bad things whilst you are in the mosque, out of being shy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 8 is to be acquainted with somebody new, to have a new friend or a new brother in Islam, which will be your companion in the akhirah as well. And then Ghazali says, and you can do the same with other actions and try to find how to multiply your intention with other actions, whether you are doing your walk in the park, whether you are feeding the needy, whether you are, and so on. So you can just see different actions and see how can you multiply the intention. So with these combinations of intentions, so your action will grow and your status will be higher, inshallah ta'ala. And as it's possible to multiply the good intention, the opposite is right. And he says you can as well multiply your intention in evil. For instance, his intention in sitting in the mosque is to backbite people and to criticize people and to talk about the mistakes and mishaps and what have you, and to just have fun and jokes and or to see some woman getting in or getting out from the mosque, or to have a debate with somebody and revenge, or you can have the intention of boasting about yourself and showing your arrogance and getting people's attention and so on and so forth. So you see, all of this can be in your action in going into the mosque. So you can either do this good, multiply good intentions, or you can either multiply bad intentions. So up to you. And he has given another example regarding as well putting perfume to go to Jumu'ah. So again, he has given different examples regarding what's your intention will be, especially for men. For women, it's a different story regarding perfume, and probably we'll talk about it another time, inshallah. So let me finish here and open the floor for your questions, inshallah ta'ala, because we run out of time. We still have plenty to cover regarding the intention. inshallah, leave it for next time. Bismillah ta'ala.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh, for this super, super important session, which underpins everything that we do as Muslims. If we're supposed to be mindful in our salah, I think this is a reminder that we need to be mindful in every single action that we do. And I think if we were to summarize the entire session in 2 words, it would be purify and multiply. So if we purify our intention and multiply it, I think the list you gave us, I had never thought of going to the masjid and could be come off with so many possible intentions. I think if we keep that list handy, that would be useful.
Yeah, Rahimahullah al-Ghazali is always, mashallah, very deep.
Yes, that was amazing. And then just to connect, Sheikh, the session with what you've delivered about Hadith Qudsi, when the first session you delivered on that, you talked about intention. And I think one of the things you said, which struck me at the time and stuck with me, is the importance of intention is in creating positive thinking. So even if you've had that thought and you didn't carry it through, it's created positive ideas within your head that you carry with you.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Very good. And then one of the other things you mentioned, Sheikh, was previously you've said that you're not accountable for a bad idea that you've had that you didn't carry out. But in that Hadith Qudsi session, you said if you were on the way to buy alcohol and then the shop was shut, then you are sinful for that, even though you didn't carry it out.
Yes,
right?
because you've actioned it. You were walking towards it. You've done the action. Yes, but you are sitting at home. You have the intention to buy, but you didn't go, you didn't action it in any shape or form. So it won't be written for you as a bad deed, because even if you have the intention, because you didn't put it into action. So say you have the intention to go to the mosque. Yes, and you didn't action it, and then because you are lazy, and then but you want to go, and then it starts raining, and said, I wish I can go. You will get the reward, inshallah ta'ala. Then you put on your clothes and you went to the mosque under the rain. Then you found the mosque closed. You will get the full reward.
We have a question on the chat. Aisha, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Well, salam alaikum, Sheikh. It's regarding the intention. Someone said to me one day, the fact that you get up in the morning, that you do wudu and you go to your prayer mat, that's your intention. You don't need to say in your head, I intend to pray tahajjud.
Yeah,
so what does one say in one's heart and head? Because I get up, I smile at the thought, or I don't, or whatever. But my intention is to, even at night when I set the alarm, my intention is to wake up to be able to do that. So is that intention, or do we need to say something extra?
It's a good question. Let me rephrase your question. Do we need to verbalize the intention in order to make it valid intention, or there's no need to verbalize the intention? Let me put it in a simple language. A definition of intention, my own definition, is knowing what you are doing. If you know what you are doing, you are doing wudu. So what's your intention? You know deep in your heart, I'm doing wudu. You know what you are doing. You stood in the salah, Allahu Akbar. You know which salah is this? Yes, it's Dhuhr salah 4 rak'ahs. You know in your heart. Do I need to verbalize it? You don't. But why sometimes we read in some books of fiqh, or probably many books, that the intention needs to be mentioned? It's just to wake up the heart. If you have some forgetfulness or some ghafla or some heedlessness, then verbalization of the intention, of course, without having a loud voice, it will help you to focus to what you are doing. That's the thing regarding verbalization. But say you started your salah, as you mentioned, you did not utter a word about the intention, but you know in your heart, this is a Fajr prayer, and I'm doing the Sunnah first, and then I'm doing the 2 Fard second. That's absolutely fine. this is what it is. That's fine.
Jazakallah khair. And when you say, when you enter the mosque, you pray itikaf, is that,
No, you don't pray, you do intention.
oh, that's what it means, intention.
Yeah, you don't pray. You pray 2 rak'ahs. This is
For the
these
mosque.
2 rak'ahs is tahiyyat al-masjid. It's like salutation for the mosque.
Mhm.
Tahiyyat al-masjid, and probably it might be the time for Zuhr. You pray Zuhr. You can have 2 rak'ahs with multiple intentions. 2 rak'ahs, it's sunnah for Zuhr. 2 rak'ahs if you've done fresh wudu for wudu. 2 rak'ahs tahiyyat al-masjid as well, and repentance. So you have 4 intentions in one. That's fine. You can do that.
So you do 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 rakas. No, 2 rakas with
2
all these 4
rak'ahs with
intentions.
multiple intentions.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
So you will get the reward of 4 salah.
Jazakallah khair.
Well, yeah. Of course, if you want to do 2 and 2 and 2, you definitely you can. And it's an extra reward, definitely.
And Sheikh, to clarify further on Aisha's question, is it possible to change the intention of your salah during your salah?
No.
Or, so then you'd have to stop that salah and restart if you realized.
Yeah. You can't change inside. No, you can't.
And as covered previously, if people who weren't aware that they needed an intention to precede a good act, who did good acts for the sake of the good acts, you said they would be counted if they didn't have that awareness.
Then this is why we need to learn. So we need to learn, as anything in life. We need to learn. So inshallah, this will be a good reminder.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, otherwise we can end. Oh, we have one more.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ارزقنا حسن التوكل عليك وحسن الإقبال إليك وحسن الظن بك وحسن الخاتمة. Ya Allah, purify our intentions, purify our actions, make our deeds purely for your sake, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Forgive us our sins, our shortcomings, our mistakes. Forgive our teachers, our parents, our spouses, our offsprings, our loved ones. صلي وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين.